I spent 3 years writing morning pages by hand every single day, and I want to share with you what I learned from the experience. My name is Bootsy Greenwood. I've helped hundreds of people change their lives and transform their lives by implementing spiritual principles at a very practical level. Now, what are morning pages? Morning pages are when you just literally write whatever is coming into your head in the morning every time that you wake up. And I did this for 3 years, and I have the notebooks to prove it. Guys, I got a whole bag of notebooks right here. Just insane the amount of pages that I've written. Books and books and books. When you start writing morning pages, you realize writing a book, it's possible, right? You're just 3 pages a day, right? And you could literally write a book in about a year. Now, morning pages are not some magic pill that are just gonna come in, swoop in, and solve all your problems overnight. And there are some misconceptions about morning pages, so I wanna address those as well. But I wanna first and foremost tell you what it is and why it's helpful, or can be, for you in your spiritual practice and journey. So morning pages are from a book written by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. And this book is specifically meant to help stuck creatives, people who are blocked. Julia Cameron had a problem. She was creatively blocked and she wasn't able to write without the use of alcohol. So she started to figure out ways to solve her problem. And the biggest exercise in that book that helped her out the most was this idea and this technique called morning pages. You simply wake up and then you just write. You write and write and write, and you just write. It doesn't matter what you write. You can literally throw the pages away after you've written them. It doesn't matter. They're not really meant to be used for any particular purpose. There's actually no real outcome to writing these pages. The whole point is process focused, and the whole point is that you are just spilling your guts. You are just throwing up on the paper whatever comes up into your head, whatever it is that you want to write about. It doesn't matter. It could be literally anything. You could write about turnips or collard greens. You could write about cockroach armies. The point of it is to lean into that creative part of yourself and to let go of that editor that is constantly watching us over our shoulder and critiquing everything that we do. The reason why most people are blocked is because they have no ability to create without using the editor at the same time as the drafter. So like, we have this creative side of us, the right brain, our heart, our soul, and that is the part of us that's just freewheeling. It's like a kid, right? It's like our inner child even. You could, if to say some corny ass shit on this video, but it is. It's like this totally, free spirit. And then we've got this logical mind, which is great as well for what it does, and it edits and it makes sure to, be really critical and judgmental, and it helps us to form something that we create. But what happens to most of us is that we're trying to operate both of these at the same time. So we've got the creative aspect of us, the soul, that's the gas, and then we've got the logical part of us, that's the brake, and we're pushing them both down at the same time. And we're not getting anywhere if we're doing that. So we want to basically separate these two things and lean in to the creative side of us. This creative side of us is what is open, is where great ideas can come from, and they can come in to your brain through morning pages. You'll have great insights and great ideas potentially just by writing whatever is coming up in your mind. But the main point of this is to separate the critic from the creative. The creative needs that space. It needs to be able to just put things up, just put things into the world, just to try things and fail, and to not have to be perfect. This is the biggest way that this exercise helped to unblock Julia Cameron. She had a crutch, which was to use alcohol, but what she realized was that she didn't really need alcohol in order to access her creativity. She just needed to let go of that critic, to let go of that judge. And this process is something that can very much help us with that. And what's really cool is that this practice can really open up an awareness of ourselves and help us to see who we really are at a much deeper level. So once you start drafting, you start to see your own truth and preferences on paper. You start to see what it is that you want, and from your heart's perspective too, not really so much the mind being in the way as much. So this opens up kind of a portal to ourselves, and it kind of opens up an access to seeing what our own likes and dislikes are. I was surprised to write some of the things that I wrote in morning pages over the past 3 years. some of the statements that I can find in these notebooks are not who I thought I was at all. But what it allowed me to do is to open up and see different aspects of myself and begin to integrate those and accept them and accept myself for what they are and see those different parts of myself as I'm bringing them all together and allowing them to exist within myself. What's cool about it is you can start to understand your own preferences, your own tastes, your own likes and dislikes, and that can help you on your creative journey so that it's a lot easier for you to choose. Creatively, if something is distasteful to us, if we don't like it, if it's not in our preferences, then we don't want to pursue that. Look, I was a people pleaser, and I needed to understand what I liked and what I really didn't like. And morning pages opened that up for me. The real magic started after I was done. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because morning pages can create a mirror to yourself. Julia Cameron makes the argument that we don't have a thought until we write it down, that it's not really crystallized. We haven't really consciously processed it because we haven't put it out on a piece of paper. We haven't externalized that thought. So it's maybe just in the background. And I think this is a good point. You could argue it either way, but here's what I want to talk about. So very often there are things that are just happening in the background of our mind. Our brains are processing these things all the time. Thoughts and ideas and all these types of things, right? It's just working back there in our subconscious. And so if we don't actively bring those thoughts to the surface, they're just kind of going on loop. It's like a refrigerator hum. It's like a background noise. And until we actually crystallize those thoughts, we aren't really seeing what our tastes and preferences are. We're not really seeing what our actual thoughts are. We're not actively understanding the direction that we're moving in and the way our subconscious is processing the information that we are taking in. But once we write them down in morning pages, now we see it. Now we start to see exactly what's on our mind, and then we can begin to dive more deeply into who we are and also address some loops that may or may not be there. So here's where the transformation is. What morning pages allows you to do, because you're writing down your thoughts, is you start to identify specific loops in those thoughts that you can address and actively begin to replace. It's really cool. You start to see the repeating patterns that are happening over and over again, and you can start to address each one of those as they come out on the paper. Now, this was integral in me putting together the 7-day transformation course that I have in my school group, Reality Rewired, where I use this among other journaling techniques to help you basically shift the way that you're thinking in a way that's positive and propels you forward instead of keeping you stuck and in a victim mentality. It's amazing to see the thought loops and identify those and then consciously replace those, and the shift that it makes is absolutely dramatic. So I highly encourage you to check out my school group. There's a lot of amazing resources in there, along with that 7-day challenge. So the last point that I want to make is that morning pages will help you begin the process of being creative. Because you're doing morning pages, everything gets easier. It's like, because you're opening up every single morning and just writing whatever comes, when you sit down to actively do a creative project with intention, now all of a sudden it's easier to get started. It's going to come together much more quickly and much more simply than if you weren't doing morning pages. You would come up and you would begin the drudgery of whatever that creative process is. Well, now if you're doing morning pages, you've already opened up and accessed that creative right brain. It's already flowing. So you have a bit of a drip on the faucet, and then now you can begin to apply that. So if you need to write an email newsletter, or if you need to do a painting, or if you need to do some graphic design, or whatever it winds up being, writing web copy, it comes up so much more easily. It starts to draft right out of you, and you're not identified with that lurking, antagonistic critic part of your brain. You can lean right into the right hemisphere, the creative aspect of your brain, and just launch into drafting without judgment. So that is my experience with morning pages over the past 3 years. There's a lot of really cool benefits, and there's some pitfalls as well. Again, I do encourage you to hop into our school group. I'd love to connect with you there. There's a lot of great resources and tools, and you can see this process out with other people in the 7-day challenge. I really appreciate your time in this video. I hope that you'll try morning pages if it sounds like something that could be helpful for you. The biggest benefits for me were getting the critic out of the way, opening up the flow, and really aligning and integrating the parts of myself that I wasn't really even aware of, that were kind of dormant in my psyche, kind of just floating around in my head. But by writing these pages down, it allowed me to access and really see who I was on paper as it came out, and begin to diagnose some things that I didn't like about myself or that I wanted to change, and even dig deeper into my preferences, likes, tastes as well. So if that sounds cool to you, I encourage you to check out the process. It's super easy. You just wake up and write stuff down on paper. It's not hard, but it will come with some resistance and some head scratching at the beginning.